What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. This is Punt Intended, the sports channel where everything is made and punts don't matter. My name is Connor, and today we have a very special guest. He is the Lord of the Yinzers. He is the OG ship poster on YouTube. You know him. I'm not sure exactly if you love him, though. Please welcome the man himself, Mr. UrinatingTree.
Nice.
I hope you enjoyed that intro.
That was A+ intro, brother.
Awesome. That means a lot, man. But thank you very much for coming on, man. So
thank you for having me on, man.
Absolutely. I had Tom on a few weeks ago. If I had started this earlier, If I had started this earlier, I probably could have had Perna on when the Ravens played the Broncos earlier this season. But you never know. I'm sure I can get you guys.
I mean, I think like we're gonna play the NFC West in a little bit. I mean, if you finish third and the Broncos, I mean, I don't know. Then maybe not next year, but the year after, maybe possible.
Well,
because it would be another 3 years for the cycle.
It's another 3 years,
unless you finish in the same place in the division.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me. I've been flirting with Corona Chan.
I've had a few people around that too. So.
Yeah, so me and Corona Chan are having an anime type fling. She thinks she can have me all to himself, but she realized she can't.
Yeah, Corona Chan unfortunately is not monogamous. She spreads her wings.
She's very
just out there, and unfortunately, it's she's a little too promiscuous. Let's just put it that way. She should really slow it down.
No, so absolutely. So obviously you're here. We're talking about the Steelers-Ravens game. Big game for two teams that pretty much have seasons that I don't think any of their fans thought was going to be how it was going to be this year. So I wanted to actually start off by asking you. You were a little bit more or less bullish on the Steelers. You kind of thought that there was, in some of your videos in the beginning of the season, you thought there was a chance they would be not as good. Has this season kind of gone that way in the way that you thought it would, or is it kind of, lived up to those, or not lived up, but kind of gone
pretty much. I had like the idea that they'd probably be one of like the last teams out. I mean, I thought it would be more because of the offense and the brutal second half schedule. I mean, if you look at a lot of their games, a lot of them are really fluky, lucky, or like the teams around them self-destructed. And you can make this argument about every single game. Like, look at the Titans game, for example. They had 3 turnovers in 10 plays. That's not the Titans. They just self-destructed. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was anything the Steelers did. It was just like, oh, here's a ball. Okay, I'm just going to take it. And that's pretty much what it was. And, like, the Ravens were kind of the same way, if you think about it. It was like there were a lot of games where they were just like, I mean, from an outsider's perspective, where they were like kind of playing with fire in a lot of those games. Like it was just like very like strange. It wasn't like I wouldn't consider like a contender of sorts. I hate when I get all those pop-ups at the same time. They're so
my computer is so slow that it's doing.
Yeah, because you get all the updates at once.
I didn't think you could hear it, but I didn't realize you could.
It happens, man. It happens to me all the time. It's like, dude,
I know.
Stop. It's like in the bottom right-hand corner. You just have to like click.
Right now, I just got all of your notifications for clickbait. Just now, I got because I follow all of you guys except. I think I follow all of you guys except Scooter. But yeah, this was a season I think that
like Baltimore,
you can argue for both teams was done in by the injuries, but different types of injuries. Baltimore's done in by long-term injuries.
Baltimore was just wrecked. I mean,
you guys had injuries that lasted a few games, but they were games that were very important that kind of ruined your chances.
I don't think it was really the injuries that did them in. Mm-hmm. The real concern for me was the defense, especially the run defense. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is one of the worst run defenses the Steelers have had in decades. I mean, you had guys like Godwin Igwe, Jermar Jefferson, Dante Foreman.
Even had Devontae Freeman.
Devontae Freeman too. When they play the Ravens, like they just gashed us. And to be fair, Stephon Tuitt has been out for the year. I mean, his brother committed suicide though, so like absolutely understandable why he took the leave of absence. And I mean, I don't know if he's going to play again, but that's just because like I mean, dude, when you lose your brother, you've lost your motivation for the game, and I completely understand why it's taken him like so long to like really heal and recover. Same thing, kind of like with Calvin Ridley. I mean, I think he may have had a situation that happened earlier, and then it's like, you know what, I can't do this. You got to be in the right mindset, especially as a professional athlete. So I'm not going to like whine about anything. That if they want to take like a mental leave of absence, completely fine with it. Like the big one, like injury wise, was Tyson Alualu. Like he was the depth they sorely needed, and like you can definitely see it, especially up the middle. You have like random guys like Henry Mondu, Isaiah Loudermilk with 2 H's. I mean, so like I don't know why you spell Isaiah with 2 H's, but news to me. You also have you brought in a couple guys. Montrevious Adams was like a depth piece you brought in. Yes,
Tom must be very happy that you took him off his hands.
I guess. I mean, he's been doing okay for like depth, so you can't really complain about that. Melvin Ingram didn't really pan out. Like he didn't want to be here, and now he's thriving with the Chiefs because he's allowed Chris Jones to move to the interior where he's just wrecking shit left and right.
That's what confused me. He signed with you guys. It seemed like he wanted to be there, but then do you know what happened
what happened was I think he wanted to be a starter, and the problem was they were using him as more of a pass rush specialist because the Steelers really like Alex Highsmith. So I think Ingram thought he would have a chance to get more playing time, and that's why he wanted out. So I like once again, it's a situation where I'm not going to blame the player because he thought he still had something left in the tank. And I mean, the stats haven't really shown in Kansas City, but he's been a vital part of that defense once again because he's allowed Chris Jones to move to the interior where he's just destroyed interior lines and where Chris Jones can really gain that strength. And it's really solidified the Chiefs defensive line. And there's been a big piece as to why not only the Chiefs, but that defense in general has really rebuilt itself. Yeah, especially over the past, like in the beginning of the year, it's night and day.
Yeah, I mean, like Jones in the game against the Ravens, he was a non-factor completely in the game against the Ravens week 2. And you know the defense, their defense was just porous enough that it couldn't, they couldn't take advantage of not having a good pass rush like that. And it's kind of surprising because obviously you guys have the worst rush defense. The Ravens have the best, but the Ravens have the worst pass defense.
Yeah, and the thing is, the Steelers don't really have a passing game. If you look, I mean, even
I was about to say, Big Ben is going to throw about 60 times for 130 yards. Somehow.
Oh yeah, I mean the QBR of 2.6 yards per attempt.
Is that what he actually had against the Browns game?
Yes, 2.67 yards per attempt and 11.9 QBR. I mean, if you look at his actual base stats, it is depressing. Like it is like Peyton Manning even more withered than his 2015 form. Like it is just.
I think I saw a tweet. It said like at halftime he had 24 completions for like 90-something
96 yards.
How is that possible? Like
that Steelers do nothing but like crossing routes like 3 yards in and screens. And that's
they've been doing that for the past 6 years, 4 years?
At least 2020, maybe 2019 when Ben was out.
So at least 2 years.
The main difference between last year's offense and this year's offense is they do more pre-snap motion. That's it. Like this team is agonizing to watch because it's just like, oh God. And then they're gonna pull off some bullshit in the fourth quarter and make it a game. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah, I watched that Chargers game.
Let's just watch. That's why I say, like, in like jest that the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl, because that's the kind of bullshit that leads to a Super Bowl. Like, if you like, I was looking it up yesterday that if you reverse every single one-score game, the Steelers would be 3-12-1.
Wow.
Like, it is just like, it's that bad. I think the only one-score games they've lost, I believe, were Minnesota and the Chargers.
Wow.
The rest have been blowouts.
I remember I think the Ravens, I'm not sure if it was before they had Jackson. I think it was when they still had Flacco. They had set like the NFL record for like one-score games.
Check down Flacco, baby.
Check down Flacco. Though that actually might have been this year because they've had a lot of one.
Oh, dude! At the past couple of weeks, dude, they've been devastating losses.
I mean, they've had, other than the Bengals game, I think they've lost 4 of their last 5 in a total of like 5 points.
Mm-hmm.
So that's from 8-8 to 13-3 right there potentially.
Yeah,
like anywhere in between there. It's crazy.
Yeah, you convert the Steelers 2-point conversion and hold on against the Rams, you're in the playoffs.
Exactly. So, and that's what I was saying is like after the I think it was after I said after the Steelers game, I was like, there was a chance I could see, unfortunately, the Ravens losing out. And it's just because the injuries have finally just kind of caught up with them.
I saw that too against like Green Bay and like after the Steelers game, I'm like, I don't know if this team wins another game because like once again, like I was even in the argument against like when they played the Steelers the first time, and like Lamar looked really rough. Like he was forcing a lot of throws. He didn't look comfortable in the pocket. He wasn't able to like do anything until the fourth quarter.
I think he just doesn't trust the offensive line because it's been such a problem outside of Kevin Zeitler, who's been really good. He hasn't allowed a sack all season. But like Villanueva, of course, you know him.
I could have told you this last year. Like he fell off hard.
Burn style.
He's bad. He was bad last year. Like he was really great in like 2017, 2018, but he's in his mid-30s. His body's just broken down, and doesn't have like the speed to keep up with edge rushers anymore. It's just like, well, we told you this in the offseason. Have fun.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, a lot of Steelers fans were very happy on Twitter in the offseason when the Ravens signed him, and he's proved to be exactly that, just a complete turnstile, unfortunately. And I think that's the big thing is he just can't trust the line to hold enough to where he can progress to get through his progressions. And so he's been forcing a lot of stuff, obviously to Andrews and stuff like that. And I wanted to ask you, as someone who you've been a lot more supportive of Lamar than a lot of other people ever since he actually came out of the league or into the league. The Ravens have already picked up his fifth-year option. Do you think it'd be best for them to play him on the fifth-year option next year and then decide whether to pay him, or should they just pay him now?
I believe so. Because, like, if you extend him and he's like this form, you're in the same situation you were in with Joe Flacco, where you're just stuck in this really rough contract. You're stuck in this cycle of mediocrity, and you can't break yourself out of it. That's the reason why you had this hope when Lamar came in. And, I mean, I like Lamar Jackson. I think he's one of the most electric players in the league, but he has been really disappointing from a passing perspective. Like, he just hasn't been the same in that regard. And, I mean, the example against the Steelers, he forced, like, this really bad ball when you could have taken, like, a 3 points, or just, like, maybe, like, ran out of the pocket when T.J. Watt was, just blitzing him relentlessly. I don't know why nobody blocked him, but, I mean, that might have been the key there. And then, like, he rushed to throw against Mark Andrews when, perfectly placed ball, you win that game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even though it's a little tough to, like, set your feet like that, but, I mean, she has shown these flashes of brilliance. For example, Kansas City, Indianapolis, and then the final drive against Detroit. So it's frustrating because, like, if you don't have consistency and you're going to pay him franchise quarterback money, that's going to be, once again, like, do you really want to pay him $40 million a year? That's the question you got to ask yourselves. And Tyler Huntley has shown some flashes where it may not be Lamar, it may be the system he's in that allows him to thrive.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what my thing, and it's come out that Huntley will be starting this game. Lamar is not going to play for the first 3 weeks. And whatever's going on with his ankle, I think it's been smart just to sit him. Let him just rest. I think he might have a secret back injury from literally carrying the Ravens the entire majority of the season. So but yeah, like you said, Huntley's been really good for the most part. Like he balled out against the Packers, obviously, but then there's been issues where he has his own limitations. But at the same time, I like to think that there's a spot somewhere between their play, between both of them, where it is because of Greg Roman and the offensive coordinator and his play design. Because obviously they're throwing a lot to Andrews, they're throwing a lot to Hollywood Brown and Rashad Bateman and stuff, but it's not the most complex of routes.
No.
And it's just very simple usually. Like that last drive against the Rams, it was all stuff in the middle of the field, 5-6 yards downfield. They weren't trying to get as many yards back as they could.
No. You're also trying to burn clock too. So the Rams didn't have much of a chance. So I think that was part of the equation there as well.
Well, I'm talking about like after the Rams scored. And
you're right. Because I'm just in there like, why are you throwing 5-6 yard checkdowns?
Exactly.
You need a field goal. You need to get into range.
And then they burned, and then instead of burning a timeout, they wasted like 13, 14 seconds trying to get lined up after getting the first down. I'm like, that's the end of the game.
That's the end.
I was like, once you did that, there was no chance. Even without the sack, it was like, there's no chance they're gonna get close enough to get
pretty much. I mean, Justin Tucker is also one of the reasons why you won an extra game, that kick of God against Detroit. But at the same time, I mean, you got to give him enough time to prep. But
so I mean, like that's the thing is that's been what a lot of people have been wondering is what do the Ravens do? Do they keep Roman? Is Lamar's the issues with Lamar more on him or more on Roman? That's kind of the argument that I've been seeing, and I just wanted your thought on that.
I think it may be time to cut ties with a couple coordinators. I know the injuries have played a role, but I mean, this kind of collapse, I mean, some heads need to roll. And I don't think it's going to be John Harbaugh. I think he's earned enough capital where he'll be able to last another year or two like this.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, Wink Martindale, like his defenses have been shredded, especially against Cincinnati. And, you know, the bulletin board material about like the gold jacket for Joe Burrow, and he just shreds them for 525 yards. And that final drive against the Rams too. Once again, like you had him, and unfortunately, Odell made some great plays, but at the same time, gotta have to stop that. Unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move over to the Steelers, obviously. So this is going to be potentially Big Ben's last game. It seems like. At least regular season game, depending on what goes on. And obviously, you've been very outspoken about your dislike of the man and just how he's acted. So I wanted your quick thoughts on him. Like, what's going to be your lasting impression of Big Ben as a player and what he meant to the Steelers when he's done?
Well, as a player, like if you saw Big Ben in his prime, he was a special quarterback. I mean, especially with the way he like maneuvered in the pocket, created something out of nothing, thrived in the chaos, allowed his receivers to generate space for themselves. Like prime Ben is the reason why the Steelers were as good as they were for a long time. But at the same time, I mean, these past couple of years have just been depressing. Mainly because he lost that ability to maneuver in the pocket. Like he doesn't have the precision accuracy to be a pocket passer. And this year he's shown flashes of it on occasion, like the fourth quarter against Baltimore, Minnesota, and that last, like, you know, that game as well. But those have been few and far between. Most of the time it's just, you know, 3-yard check downs because we don't have an offensive line, or screen passes, or like hope like Najee like carries defenders for 3 to 4 extra yards. That's pretty much what this offense has been. And unfortunately, the Steelers are in a situation where if you had prime Big Ben, you might be looking at a true contender. But unfortunately, you don't have that. But the thing with Ben is, like, I mean, off the field, he's a piece of shit. I mean, unfortunately, we can all confirm that. I mean, it's not just, you know, the allegations. There are a couple other things that have happened in his career as well. But as a player, I mean, he's still the best quarterback I probably will see in my lifetime. And maybe, I mean, there's a chance that, you know, they draft Kenny Pickett and he becomes a god. Please do this. I'm a Pitt fan. Please bring Kenny Pickett to Pitt. But what I'm going to say is, but I mean, he will be in Canton. He'll probably be first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, at the end of the day, like, sport is sport, and you can't really hold grudges about, like, you know, you're like, oh, quarterback's a piece of shit. It's like, at the end of the day, they're human. So all I can say is I hope he enjoys retirement. I hope he raises his family right, and I hope, like, things are well in his future. So that's all you can really say.
Yeah, and you kind of brought it. You actually mentioned with Kenny Pickett. The next thing I wanted to ask you. So it seems unfortunate. My uncle is a Steelers fan, and we were talking about this when I saw him recently about how the Steelers haven't really seemed to have a
contingency plan. No.
Yeah, exactly. They had no plan in place for Big Ben's, you know, retirement. Obviously, 2019 with Mason Rudolph kind of showed that.
Yeah.
So, but there's been rumors of, you know, Steelers interested in obviously Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson. So do you think, one, that the Steelers would have the capital to be able to trade for one of those guys? And two, would they even be willing to do that given their kind of history of not being willing to kind of give up first round picks? Or do you think they'll go for a Kenny Pickett or just someone in the draft?
I think I can really see the Steelers thinking they can run the table and blaming it on injuries, because the Steelers aren't in like the form of like a rebuild. They're not like a team that wants to tank or like punt a season away. That's never been their MO, which is why you have this like futility that like cycle they've been in over the past 10 years, where it's like you're either mediocre 8-8 or 9-7 and you miss the playoffs, or you have this like fluke regular season where it's all smoke and mirrors and you get blown out in the first round. You only have 3 playoff wins in 10 years. I mean, if you think about it, mediocrity is the standard in Pittsburgh right now, unfortunately. And this is the kind of year where, I mean, they're a mediocre team. They've maybe had like 2 or 3 wins that they shouldn't have had. But at the same time, I mean, with how bad our quarterback is, with the depth issues that this team has, I mean, this is pretty much their peak right now. I can really see once again, like with Pickett, I don't know if they're going to be high enough to be able to move up in the draft unless you're trading like 3 first-round picks, and that's not the Steeler way to really move up and trade 3 first-round picks for a quarterback. Remember with Ben, like he fell to the Steelers at that position, which is why they debated. I think they wanted to pick Sean Andrews, if I remember correctly, the tackle out of Arkansas, but they chose Ben, which I mean turned out to be the right decision. But I know with I think they will go vet. I can't see Aaron Rodgers coming to Pittsburgh, mostly because like how bad our offensive line is. I mean, I don't know if he has the receiving core that he has in Green Bay. I mean, I like Deontay Johnson. I think he's solid. But do you compare him to Devontae Adams? Unfortunately, no.
Would you say would you say a receiving core of Deontay Johnson, Juju, if he does re-sign with you guys, and Claypool is better than Adams and MVS and Lazard that they have in Green Bay? Because because I mean Devontae is so good by himself. It's
because
like at the same time Green Bay doesn't have a true number 2, whereas like you could argue Claypool and Johnson are more true number 2s than
that's what I think. Like Johnson, I think would be a really solid number 2. Like, but he has some gameplay ability, but I wouldn't call him like a surefire number 1 yet. Claypool could be that number 1. He has incredible talent, but it's just like he has a 10-cent brain, and it's just frustrating to see. Because remember, he's doing this like with 15 seconds left on the clock. Like first down on a 4th and 5. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And then like he's pissed off at the guard for trying to show urgency, and then the ball moves away. You piss away 10 seconds, and that might have cost you the game against Minnesota. Mm-hmm. So, and in hindsight, it may have cost you a playoff spot. But I mean, as I said, like he made like 2 incredible plays like earlier in the game. That's like, this dude is incredible talent. And if he harnesses it properly, the dude could be special. And I mean, he'll probably need a different quarterback. Once again, like I think like the cynical part of me thinks they go after like, another stopgap, like a Jimmy Garoppolo. Like Garoppolo you're going to have to pay up for him because of the season he's had. Like you're going to have to trade at least 2 firsts. Matt Ryan would be another one, which is just like, I mean, I like Matt Ryan, but he's on the downswing.
Yeah. Definitely.
Maybe like a Trubisky. Like, do you think it's because of like Chicago that he screwed up, or do you think he's like just a stopgap? Or do you go after like Daniel Jones?
Knowing the Giants, they're not going to do it. They're going to keep Jones for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, knowing the Giants have a lot of issues on their own. So
I just know five somehow going to be smacking his chair come April.
I don't blame him. I mean, hey, that's good comedy, brother. Good comedy.
I mean, dude, I do a college football podcast. We plan on doing a draft live stream, so that should be a lot of fun to see that. Dude. And obviously, I know you guys, the dumpster fire is blown up because of Five's misery.
Oh yeah.
So
dude, this past one was brilliant because like he just literally said Kadarius Toney. Like if they pick Kadarius Toney, I'm gonna flip out. Guess what? Kadarius Toney.
It's just like Tom. He said, please not Jordan Love, and then he gets Jordan.
They pick Jordan Love. I'm like, yeah. I was sitting there at the draft, like, dude, why are you picking Jordan Love? You've got issues.
But it's funny.
I give Patrick Queen right there.
Yeah, I mean, Queen's done better this year.
That's what I mean. I like Patrick Queen. I
Mhm.
think like he would have been great on that Packers middle linebacking core.
Yeah, but I found it funny that all of the guys in clickbait, all of their teams, all of them came away pissed at their teams for the draft in some way or another.
For different reasons, and I mean,
I found that kind of funny.
Yeah.
So we haven't really previewed the game. So obviously, Hundley's starting, not Lamar. What's your biggest? I mean, the obvious X factor I was going to say is probably TJ Watt. Obviously, he's only a sack away from tying the record for a season.
Yes.
What's a non-TJ Watt defensive X factor for the Steelers?
I would probably say Cam Hayward. He would be like the guy who does the little things to allow TJ Watt space. He's probably the only good run defender we have. So, I mean, they're probably going to run more like right up the gut middle, especially with like Tyler Huntley. That's what worries me. Like they've given up like a lot of 100-yard rushers. Cleveland was the only different game, but I feel like a lot of that was because Cleveland just like gave up. Like they were just dead. And it's just like, whatever, we're out of the playoffs. Who gives a shit? Like they're just like looking for like, okay, let's just get this over with. Let's get the season done and we'll call it a day. And that's ironically the most complete game the Steelers have played this season. So
ironically, and for offense, who's an X factor for you? That's not.
I would probably say Najee, mostly because of like, you know, you see a lot of times where like he had a big game, especially against like Cleveland. He had 186 yards and I think 6.7 yards per carry. Like he can bust out some runs if he gets to the right hole. And also you have to consider too that like he's a bulldozer. Like he can carry guys for 3-4 extra yards, mostly because of just like his sheer willpower.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be like, those are my two X factors of the game. Speaking of which, who are your X factors, especially on offense?
So offense, I think it would be trying to find Mark Andrews.
I think he's going to break the tight end record if all things go according to plan.
I think he needs like it's not 107. No, that's Cooper Kupp that needs 170 yards to break 2,000. Andrews needs, I think, about 100-something yards to break the receiving record for tight end. Season. I think before last week he needed 24 catches to break the single season catch record as well. And knowing Hundley, it didn't matter whether it was Jackson or Hundley, they will be throwing to Andrews.
Yeah, Andrews is your safety valve. He's your best receiver.
Exactly. I think not a guy that's not Andrews would be Bateman. Rashad Bateman, the first-round pick. He's been really good this year, and he's had a very high number of his catches go for first downs. He's been really good at moving the chains. So it makes me really excited to see what him and Lamar having a full offseason to work together might look like next year. Yeah. And then defense probably would be I'm trying to think. There's so many injured players that I'm trying to think of who –
I can think of a couple.
Probably either if we want to stop Najee, it's probably either Calais Campbell or even Patrick Queen. Queen's ever since they moved Queen to Mike, or they moved him away from Will over to Mike linebacker, and they've put the play calling in Josh Bynes' hand.
He has the green dot.
Yeah, I don't think Bynes has the green dot anymore. I think it's one of the guys in the secondary had it. But Queen's had a knack for having a few times a game where he'll just shoot a gap and just get a stop behind the line of scrimmage. And it's like, oh, that's what you can do. Like
the question is he guessing, or is he just like, is that his play call to just like bust?
I'm not sure if it's guessing, but I think he's starting to show the instincts that he can develop with it. And it's happened enough that I think it's proven to be more instinct than guessing.
Good.
But he still is a bit of a liability in pass coverage, obviously, but it doesn't help that the secondary is so weak that, you know, any liability from the linebackers is going to hurt the team overall.
Yeah.
So, but I think he's getting there, and I think he's going to be, you know, get better. So I think it's going to be either him or maybe Calais Campbell if we wanted to stop the run. Campbell's not been there a few times due to injury, so I hope that he's there. But so what's your final prediction what's your score prediction?
I would say the Steelers win. Probably a 1-score game. I'm sorry. I would probably say low scoring. I would probably say 20-13.
Steelers going Super Bowl?
Oh yeah, they're going Super Bowl. I got my terrible towel here. And then we root for Jacksonville, and they will probably lose 27-10.
To who
and
in the
we're out
playoffs?
and we're going home.
And then you lose 27-10 in the playoffs?
No, I mean like Jacksonville loses.
Oh,
we're out.
Yeah, the Ravens need an absolute miracle. What do they need?
Yeah. They need Indy to lose. They need Miami
Chargers
to lose
to
against
win.
New England, and they need the Chargers to lose.
They need the Chargers to
So
lose.
the Steelers' way is like we have to win,
and then
Indy has to lose, and the Chargers and Raiders cannot tie.
Dude, that'd be so funny though if the Chargers
if they just started kneeing or they tied, like dude, Pittsburgh would mauled, and I'd laugh hysterically at it, but at the same time, it's just you just destroyed the credibility of the league.
I know there was a World Cup game back in I think it was the 70s or 80s where it was I think it was Algeria who they beat a team that they weren't supposed to beat, like no one thought they were going to beat. And all they had to do was win their next game and have that team and one of the other two teams in their group lose, and they would go on to the round of 32. But if both teams that were playing, if one team won and the other team lost, didn't matter what happened, Algeria would be knocked out. So the team scores, and then the entire rest of the game was just them passing the ball the entire time. No one tried any shots on goal the rest of the game. And it got so bad that even the FIFA, which is known for being pretty much corrupt, was like, oh no, we have to investigate this. And like this was bad. It's like it completely changed how the World Cup went. So I'm sure that would be an absolute shit show.
It destroys their credibility. So
exactly.
That absolutely makes sense. I mean, it's probably going to be to the point where it doesn't matter, but at the same time, I mean, that scenario's there and it's still hilarious.
That'd be hilarious if it finished in a 22-22 tie or something.
Oh yeah, and it's just like, oh god. Well, we're going home.
22-22. That's how
this dragging us to hell with you.
I just noticed the Sudowoodo in your tree behind you.
Yes, my girlfriend ended up getting me this for Christmas, and she just put it up there randomly. I'm like, okay, I guess we're staying there. Well, how do you think this game's gonna go, man?
I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a 1-score game. That's pretty much how Steelers Ravens have gone pretty much since life in memoria. That's pretty much how it's gone. Anytime that it's more than a 1-score game, it pretty much goes against the laws of nature, I think.
Yes.
So, I mean, I totally would not surprise me if it comes down to a game-winning kick by Tucker or Boswell.
Boswell. Yeah.
I don't know why I thought it was someone else you had. So, I would like to see the Ravens win. Do I think they can do it? I mean, your passing game is the thing. The only good thing is you guys don't try to pop off the secondary, so I don't think the secondaries are going to be.
The only thing they really do deep is like one-on-one down the sidelines and hope like Deontay Johnson or Chase Claypool or James Washington can make a big play. That's all.
They do that like once a quarter or something.
Yeah, it's just like that's why it's aggravating. They don't change up the offense. It's just like run, short pass, crossing route on a 3rd and 9 that's like gains 3, or maybe screen pass that gets blown up in the backfield, or the maybe they do something like the Chiefs where they do a flea flicker when their running game has no traction, or halfback sweeps on 4th and 1. So all you needed to do was a slant route to Deontay or Chase.
It's like you're the professional version of Virginia Tech, where I went to school, because that's how their offense was. It was so predictable under their offensive coordinator Brad Cornelson. It literally was run, pass, and I could just in the bowl game against Maryland, they ran so many times up the middle with the quarterback for a gain of 2 yards. It was aggravating. Yeah. But he was going to be fired because he wasn't going to be part of the new coaching staff. So he didn't give a crap anyway. So, but I'll say 16-13 Ravens. But like I said, I have no confidence in that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just with all the injuries and stuff, and it really is. It's really interesting how I I'm willing to give up more of a pass because of the injuries for this season to the coaches and stuff, for the most part. But like, it'll be interesting to see what happens this season with this offseason with the team.
Like, what's your dream scenario for the Ravens this offseason? Just like shooting off the cuff.
That's a good question. I would say get everyone healthy and not have anyone, suffer any more injuries going into next season. Second would be drafting I would see them either go offensive line, defensive line, or secondary. A lot of Ravens fans, including myself, want them to get Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati for cornerback.
Yeah.
Because Anthony Averett's probably going to be signed somewhere else. He's played well enough. I think he's going to be signed.
Jimmy Smith's getting up there in age too.
Jimmy Smith might retire. He's been up there. I mean, he's on season 10 or 11 now for the Ravens. Yeah. So,
was he part of that Super Bowl team, or was
so his rookie year was 2011. So he was part of that 2012. That was his second or third season in the league. Was that season? So he's been around the block, and he's been taking one season, deals to stick around. So I think it'd be that. And then I think they'll cut Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams. They take up a lot of money on the defensive line. Unfortunately, they'll try and go young on the D line. I think.
Any free agents you're on your wish list?
Well, it just depends, because at this point, it's like the Ravens will have 26 mil before they cut anybody.
Yeah.
And I think if they cut Calais and Brandon, that'll free up a good. I think I looked at free up a good 20+ mil between the two of them. So obviously, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I don't think they need to go receiver. I think they're actually pretty set there. It's kind of weird to say that.
Yeah.
I think they're good there.
I mean, you've invested so much capital in receivers.
Exactly. Exactly. So I don't think they need to sign anybody. If anything, Sammy Watkins is probably not going to be back again.
Yeah, Watkins is probably gone. He hasn't done much.
I think they'll try and go for a free agent offensive lineman, maybe a right tackle that they can bring in and stuff. And secondary, they'll probably just go secondary. I'm not sure exactly who's available. But what about you?
I mean, if Jesse Bates becomes a free agent, I think you're going to try and snag him first chance you get from Cincy. For the Steelers, I mean, obviously quarterback's going to be the big question coming in. I mean, I think they still have Mason Rudolph on a 1-year deal, but I think they'll probably do an open competition, which is kind of why I think they go lower on the totem pole. Ideally, you go for an Aaron Rodgers. I don't think they're going to get him. I'm not that crazy about Russell Wilson, just because I don't think he's more of a scrambling quarterback on weak offensive lines, and I don't think that's going to work out. I think he wants a stronger offensive line, and Pittsburgh isn't really on his wish list. I think he's going to go probably Denver or New York Giants, if anything. I would probably say, do you go for a Ryan Fitzpatrick or a Matt Ryan? I mean, that's worst case scenario, but I can see the Steelers pulling that. I think they go offensive line heavy. I think Trey Turner's gone. I think Kendrick Green is not a starting center. His tech is really bad at the position. He's a natural guard. His snaps are poor. So I think they move him over to right or left guard, or they move Dotson over to right guard. They draft, my pick would be, if they can't get Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis, I would probably say Tyler Lindermuth out of or Linderbaum. Sorry, Linderbaum. I keep calling him Lindermuth because of Freiermuth, tight end. Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa, the center. That's supposed to be a really good guy. Leal, the defensive tackle out of Texas A&M, I can also see them picking, mainly because of the holes in the interior line. I mean, Alualu, unfortunately, is getting up there in age 2. He's 32. They'll probably bring him back. I think he's under contract, or they might bring him back on a 1-year deal as well for the depth purposes. I would say Juju's probably gone, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how it is. I think the injury kind of he was on a 1-year prove-it deal, and it just did not work out. I would say Joe Hayden is going to be a big question as well. He wants to test the free agent market. They might franchise tag him, which, do you want to franchise tag a 32-year-old corner who's kind of starting to taper off a little bit but still shows value? Mm-hmm. I would say safety is going to be a concern. I don't know if they bring back Terrell Edmonds. He's like a decent in the box, but like as in like play recognition, which was his big weakness out of college, that has not improved. He's been pretty rough.
I actually had classes with him at Virginia Tech. I had like 2 classes with him. And it was so difficult to actually try and talk to him about anything but football. And he never wanted to talk about it at all.
Yeah, I mean, well,
kind of interesting.
I mean, the thing is, he's probably so like embossed in football that just like he probably wants to talk about anything but it.
Exactly. But yeah, I think Edmonds might be gone. Maybe. I mean, it seems a lot of Steelers fans aren't.
I'm like, it's lukewarm. Like they kind of whiffed on that pick, but
well, I think it's because he was seen as like a 3rd round pick, and
he was a 3rd round pick, and as I said, his issue was play recognition, and it like his biggest issue is play recognition. I think he'll probably look for a starting job, maybe like somewhere else. Like I can see like a secondary hungry team bringing him in for maybe a year or 2 to start. Or maybe spot start. I can definitely see that, but I don't know if it's going to be with Pittsburgh.
I don't think it'd even be with the Ravens because their secondary, at least their top 4 guys are all set and signed on with contracts.
Mm-hmm.
So they're all injured, so they'll come back and they'll be starting. So I don't think he would go to the Ravens either.
Middle linebacker is going to be a big question as well. Devin Bush has been a huge disappointment this year, and it's a shame because like as a rookie he was phenomenal, but like this past year, like I know there's like questions about his ACL, but I don't think the ACL is going to be the problem. I feel like it's his play recognition. Once again, there are times like against the Chargers, for example, like he's just standing there and doesn't recognize the play until the guard's like in the second level blowing him up on a block and just like pushing him right into the end zone. And it's just like, this is not Devin Bush. I mean, do you give him another year? Because, like, I don't know if they're going to add.
Is this his 3rd year?
Yeah, 3rd year. So you'd have to see if, like, you add the 5th year option. I don't know if they're going to do that. I don't know if they extend that 5th year option because I know, like, he's been very disappointing. And plus, you had the stuff on social media over the summer, which is like, dear God, stop. I mean, middle and Joe Schobert. Like, I like Joe Schobert. I liked him in Cleveland. He's been, he's okay. I mean, do you restructure that contract or do you cut him and just eat the dead cap? That's another question you have to consider.
I mean, there's going to be a lot that's going to go on between these 2 teams because it's.
I mean, you're at a crossroads for both.
Yeah, exactly, and it's kind of weird though because I feel like other than Cleveland, not Cleveland, other than Cincy, all 3 teams are at a crossroad. You know, Browns might not bring back Baker, and might go back to being the Browns.
Well, I mean, do you go for like big fish at quarterback? Like, do you go for an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson if you're Cleveland? Because like last year, like my idea was trade Baker, get Dak Prescott. But I mean, Dak stayed in Dallas. But this was when we didn't know if Dak was going to stay in Dallas. So
that's a good point. And then obviously these teams are in big transitional periods, and since he's all like, oh. Cool.
Yeah, it's like, we just take advantage have a like we're good.
We're just going to take advantage of the chaos all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, all 3 have been disappointing in all separate ways. Mm-hmm. I mean, I expected Cleveland to take that next step, and it's another Browns season.
Mm-hmm. And now it could end up looking like Saxonville, where it's just a 1-year wonder kind of thing.
Yeah, like fluky.
That'd be
ironically, Browns. Jacksonville and Pittsburgh are and Cleveland beat Pittsburgh on their way to advance to playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, that would be on brand for the Browns if that was how it was. That last season was just a complete fluke. So just one final question. Who do you hate more in the division? Do you hate the Browns, Bengals, or Ravens more?
Ooh, Ravens I've always had like a token of respect for because of the way they've run their franchise. It's always been a brutal rivalry. And they've always been must-watch games, especially like they always like take a pound of flesh out of each other. It's always a battle. And that's why I've never like hated the Ravens per se, even though like Ravens fans think I'm like toxic. It's like, dude, it's the truth. I'm sorry.
You're definitely not the most toxic Steelers fan I've ever encountered. There's plenty more that I've encountered.
Oh, dude, easily. There are like people like who unironically believe the Steelers are going to the Super Bowl. Like there were like Steelers fans were doing the goddamn wave when a dude nearly had a broken neck on the field.
Oh yeah, I heard about. Oh yeah, I remember that.
And then there was like Presley Harvin, our punter. His father like had come in. He was terminally ill. He died the week after. They booed him after a bad punt. And it's like, oh, his father was in attendance and he's dead.
Like, if not for Philly fans, I feel like Pittsburgh fans would have booed Santa Claus by now.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if that came out that Steelers fans had done that.
I mean, I could see it. I mean, if especially after a bad year, like say sometime in the 80s, early 2000s, maybe even in the 60s, the Steelers were really bad then too. And it's like, oh God. Ugh.
Yeah.
I see Cleveland booing Santa Claus too, especially in 2000s.
Oh yeah,
maybe mid 90s, like when they're about to move and they're playing in their final games, they have Santa Claus come out. Oh, they're booing the shit out of them. They're throwing not just snowballs, they're throwing goddamn sections of the bench.
Yeah, no, I think I hate Cincy more, mainly just because of Andy Dalton and AJ Green. And
Tyler Boyd. Yeah,
Tyler Boyd.
That's definitely understandable.
Yeah, I definitely hate them more. It's the same thing. I've encountered Steelers fans who I've agreed who were like, we dislike each other, but we respect each other at the same time.
Yeah, exactly, because we're both relatively the same team.
Yeah, and then you have the Bengals and Browns just coming along. They're like the little stepbrothers that like get good every once in a while and talk smack, and then eventually they just kind of fall on their own faces. Eventually,
I feel like get angrier at Cleveland because they piss away a lot of talent more than anything.
That's a good point.
And it's just like 19, 21, like it's a lot of years. I'm like, dude, you have more talent. You should be a lot better than this. Stop fucking up. And plus, what they did after the whole Mason Myles Garrett thing, I'm like,
oh yeah.
Christ.
Well, that's more, Kitchens, yeah. But
they deserve that. Like Pittsburgh started it. It's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we finished it too, buddy. You didn't start shit.
So, is there anything else you wanted to say? I think that's pretty much it.
No, sir. All I can say is Steelers going Super Bowl, except when Jacksonville loses, and then we're going home. So, the false hope, baby. That's pretty much all we're riding on right now. 5% chance to make it for the Steelers, 3% chance to make it for the Ravens. We're still alive. There's a chance.
There's a chance for both of them. I could totally see it somehow ending in a tie for both teams somehow.
Yeah, and then we just lose. Or it could be a situation where Jacksonville ends up winning and the Pittsburgh loses in the final seconds, and then either I think Miami ends up winning and it's all moot.
Yeah, exactly. The Ravens are just waiting for that. No, the Ravens, everything's going their way, and then they're waiting on the Sunday night game, and then the
Chargers end up winning. It's
Chargers end up winning. No, but that makes no sense because the Ravens beat the Chargers. So, but it's probably because they have the extra
tiebreakers.
Other tiebreakers.
And also, you have to remember the Chargers would. I think it's because I think the Colts would get tiebreaker in that regard. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, because I think
you'd be 3 teams at 9-8, so head-to-head doesn't count in that regard. Even though you did beat Indianapolis and the Chargers, I don't know.
I don't know either. There's tiebreakers hard to figure out sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all for today, man. It means a lot that you came out and talked to me, obviously. And I don't hope the Steelers go to the Super Bowl. Steelers going to Super Bowl.
Oh, I got Super Bowl. Ravens got Super Bowl.
Ravens got Super Bowl. I should have been saying that from the get-go when it was
the false hope was coming out. Dude, you were 8-3.
Dude, that's what makes it more brutal this season.
Because it was just a collapse. I mean, you could see it coming from a mile away, but it's just like, that sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry.
No, you're giddy inside watching the Ravens collapse after the Steelers collapsed in 2018.
Oh, dude, 2018 was just an aggravating year because there was no excuse for it.
Mm-hmm.
They had no injuries. They had all this talent they had a stronger defense. Their offense was just Ben throwing 11 billion times a game. They had no running game for whatever reason.
Yeah, and you guys were 7-2-1, and
and then they just collapsed. And then you just the Steelers have this. It's at least one game where they shit the bed randomly against a terrible opponent, and I have no idea why, but it cost them the playoffs. It did it against Cleveland and the Raiders in 18. It happened against the Jets in 19. 20, it happened against Washington, and then 21 this year, Detroit. So it's just that tie is probably going to cost them.
That tie will cost you because that's a half loss pretty much, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And same thing as 18. The tie cost them that year too.
Yeah. So, but thanks, man. It means a lot for you to come out.
Absolutely.
I hope that, in the future we can talk again, maybe do this again another time. That would mean a lot.
Definitely.
And obviously, if any of you do not subscribe to UrinatingTree, what the hell is wrong with you? He has some great content coming out every week, and I know you have plenty of content probably ready for the off season.
Oh yeah,
can't wait to see your NFL draft 2020 or 2017.
The retrospective. Oh, dude, I am going to dunk on the Bears so hard. That was a terrible move from the first moment it happened.
Dude, I know
he did nothing at North Carolina. I saw him at Pitt. The pick was Deshaun Watson.
Dude, I went to Virginia Tech and we beat Trubisky three times.
Yeah, I mean, Trubisky had a comeback against Pitt, but that's because Pitt they choke all the time.
So this is the episode that can't seem to end for some reason because something keeps coming up. So but thanks, man, and good luck with everything. And can't wait to talk to you again sometime. Go Ravens.
Absolutely.
I guess don't go Steelers.
I was going to say go Ravens. You were about to fool me there. Not good.
But thanks, man. Have a good day. Thanks,
guys.
Man.
Take care.
And I'll see you next time on Punt Intended.
Stars against Super Bowl.